Just hours earlier, US defense officials confirmed that Venezuelan military aircraft had increased aggressive proximity maneuvers near US naval operations in the Caribbean. The statement was short, careful, but it carried weight, because by the time it was released, the situation had already turned dangerous. At 4:42 a.m. in international waters of the Southern Caribbean, the US aircraft carrier USS Gerald Ford was cutting through calm seas at over 25 knots. The sky was dark, the water was flat. For the crew on watch, it looked like another quiet night at sea until the radar picture shifted. 4 fast-moving aircraft suddenly appeared from the south. Low altitude, high speed, no radio calls, no identification signals. Just straight lines aimed directly at the Ford carrier group. Within seconds, operators confirmed the shapes: Venezuelan military jets. Instead of adjusting course, the aircraft angled in closer. One dropped below 200 feet above the water, skimming the surface where even a small wave could be deadly. The closing distance collapsed fast. Less than a minute, then seconds. Alarms broke the silence inside the combat center. Tracking brackets tightened. Officers called out headings and speeds in sharp, clipped voices. These were not random paths. The approach matched known attack profiles. Forward pressure, no hesitation. This was not confusion. This was intent. A controlled move designed to test limits. And right here, as the tension spikes for the first time, ask yourself this: when jets fly this close to a carrier, is it still a signal or already an attack? Subscribe now, because what follows brings this encounter even closer to the edge. This encounter did not happen in a random stretch of ocean. The Southern Caribbean is one of the most watched pieces of water in the Western Hemisphere. Major shipping routes pass through it every day. Energy traffic moves north. Military patrols move south. Every radar in the region is on, all the time. When a carrier like USS Gerald Ford operates here, it is not hidden, it is seen. And that visibility is exactly the point. For Venezuela, flying military jets this close is not about winning a fight. It is about testing reaction time, measuring restraint, and sending a message without firing a shot. The low-altitude runs matter because they reduce warning time. The direct approach matters because it removes doubt. These are moves designed to force a decision inside the carrier's command center. For the US Navy, this space leaves no room for error. A carrier does not turn quickly. Escorts must protect wide arcs. Every contact has to be sorted in seconds, not minutes. And behind every radar screen are real people who know that one wrong call could pull an entire region into crisis. For the sailors on watch, this was not politics. It was distance, speed, and closing angles. It was the sound of alarms breaking the night. It was knowing that restraint can be as dangerous as action if the other side keeps pushing. This is why moments like this matter. Not because of what happened, but because of how close it came to something worse. And here is the real question that divides opinions even inside military circles. If you think Venezuela crossed the line first, press 1 inch the comments. If you believe the US response was right to hold back, press 9 and make sure you are subscribed, because the next phase begins with the first real response in the air. Inside the operations center aboard USS Gerald Ford, the atmosphere changed fast. The radar picture was no longer abstract. The tracks were tight. Speeds were stable. Headings were direct. This was no longer a question of intent. It was a question of timing. Operators called out numbers in steady voices. Range shrinking, altitude dropping. One contact broke slightly left, then corrected back in. Another stayed low, riding close to the ocean surface. The system tagged them as military aircraft. Venezuelan. No response to hails. No change in posture. Above the carrier group, an early warning aircraft adjusted its orbit to get a clearer look. Almost immediately, one of the approaching jets climbed sharply, then pushed its nose down again. The move forced a rapid course correction. Too close. Too aggressive. Not normal. Down near the water, a smaller jet peeled off and descended even lower. It pointed straight toward one of the escort ships. The approach angle was clean, the speed constant. This was not a show pass. This was a run that left almost no room to recover if something went wrong. On the Ford, the decision window narrowed. Defensive systems shifted states. Tracking priority jumped. The crew knew the rules. Do not fire unless the line is crossed. But they also knew how thin that line was at this distance and speed. Then came the order that marked the first real response. Prepare to launch. Not to attack. To protect. The flight deck crews moved with purpose. Every second mattered. The goal was clear. Put US aircraft between the carrier and the threat before the next move forced a harder choice. As the jets were readied, the tension reached another peak. And this is where opinions split. If you believe the US should have responded sooner, press 1 in the comments. If you think holding fire while launching protection was the smarter move, press 9 and stay subscribed, because the next moments take this encounter into its most dangerous phase yet. The moment US aircraft lifted off the deck of USS Gerald R. Ford, the situation shifted again. This was no longer just tracking and warning. Now there were fighters in the air, closing the gap from both sides. And the Venezuelan pilots reacted immediately. One of the larger jets climbed hard, then rolled into a sharp turn, cutting across the projected path of the approaching US fighters. The distance was tight, too tight. The maneuver forced a rapid adjustment in the air. In close encounters like this, even a small angle change can mean survival or collision. For a brief second, there was no sound but the ocean below. Then the radio crackled. Updated headings. New ranges. Another Venezuelan jet dropped lower, skimming the surface to stay inside radar clutter. Sea spray kicked up behind it, blurring returns and complicating tracking. Inside the Ford, screens filled with overlapping data. Contacts moved fast. Fatigue began to matter. Crews had been on watch for hours, and now every decision carried weight. The tension was not explosive. It was tight, compressed, the kind that wears people down 1 second at a time. A sudden burst of electronic noise washed across the displays. Not enough to blind systems completely, but enough to distort them. It was a reminder that this was coordinated, not random. Someone was pushing multiple levers at once: airspace, altitude, timing, and attention. Another jet surged forward, passing close enough that pilots could see shape and markings. No friendly gestures, no wave-off, just speed and direction. The message was simple: we are here. We are not backing away. On the bridge and in the combat center, the same thought kept returning. They are trying to force a mistake, a rush decision, a shot fired too early. The Ford held its posture, steady speed, controlled response, no panic. And this is the moment that divides viewers. If you think this level of pressure already justified a stronger US reaction, press 1 in the comments. If you believe staying controlled was the only way to avoid escalation, press 9 and stay subscribed, because what happens next looks like a retreat but isn't. Then, just as suddenly as it had intensified, the pressure appeared to ease. On the radar, the Venezuelan formation began to drift outward. Altitudes increased slightly. Headings loosened. To an untrained eye, it looked like the encounter was winding down. Inside the combat center on USS Gerald R. Ford, no one relaxed. Experienced operators have a saying: when an opponent backs off too cleanly, it usually means they are setting something up. And this movement was too smooth, too organized. Not the scatter you see when pilots disengage under stress. One of the smaller jets dropped even lower as the others climbed. It slipped back toward the water, staying just above the wave tops. At that height, radar returns blur. Sea spray fills the picture. Tracking becomes harder, not easier. This was not retreat behavior. It was repositioning. Moments later, a focused beam flashed toward one of the escort ships. Short, precise, repeated, not random. The kind of action used to measure distance and response time. On the Ford, officers exchanged quick looks. They all recognized it. This was the kind of move that sits right on the edge between signaling and targeting. Out in the air, US pilots adjusted without being told. They slid into shadow positions, staying close but not crossing lines. Cameras recorded everything, every roll, every drop, every hesitation. Both sides were watching each other now, waiting to see who would blink first. The dangerous part was not what had happened yet. It was what had not happened. No shots, no flares, no hard breakaways. That meant the pressure was still building. This was the twist. What looked like de-escalation was actually a reset, a chance for the next move to be sharper, closer, and harder to ignore. And this is where I want your take. If you think this pullback was just a bluff, press 1-inch the comments. If you believe it was setting up something worse, press 9 and make sure you are subscribed, because the next phase brings the carrier group to its highest risk point. The reset did not last long. Without warning, one of the Venezuelan Su-30 leveled off and turned back toward USS Gerald R. Ford. The move was clean, deliberate. The jet stopped climbing, rolled slightly, and pointed its nose straight at the carrier group. Inside the combat center, several heads turned to the same screen at once. Then the alerts came alive. Tracking systems tightened. Defensive displays shifted color. A tone cut through the room, sharp and unmistakable. The Su-30 had activated its fire control radar, not by accident, not briefly, long enough to matter. In moments like this, time stretches. 3 seconds feels long. 4 seconds feels endless. Every person in the room understood what that signal meant. This was no longer posturing. This was the final step before a shot. The kind of move that gives full legal authority to respond with force. On the flight deck, crews froze in place, waiting for the call. In the air, us pilots held position, watching the jet that now held the most dangerous line of all. Radios stayed quiet. No shouting, no rushed orders. Just controlled breathing and eyes locked forward. The carrier's close-in defense systems powered up, tracking automatically. They did not fire. They waited. One more push, one more second. That was all it would take to change everything. Then, just as suddenly, the radar lock disappeared. The Su-30 rolled away, climbing hard. The rest of the formation followed, turning together and pulling back into higher altitude. Within moments, the radar picture began to clear. The pressure drained out of the room in slow waves. No cheers, no relief shouts, just silence, broken by calm voices calling out updated tracks moving away. The crisis had peaked, and it had passed without a single shot fired. But make no mistake, this was the closest point, the edge where restraint and escalation almost collided. So here is the question that matters most. If you were in command at that moment, would you have ordered fire? Press 1 if you think the line was already crossed. Press 9 if you believe holding back prevented something far worse, and stay subscribed, because what happened next sent a message far beyond this one morning at sea. When the last hostile track faded from the screens, the sea returned to the same calm it had before. The carrier group held course, speed steady, formation intact. From the outside, nothing looked different, but inside USS Gerald R. Ford, everyone knew exactly how close it had come. In less than half an hour, there had been multiple aggressive approaches, repeated low-altitude runs, and at least one fire control radar lock aimed straight at a U.S. carrier. No weapons were launched, no damage was done, no sailors were hurt. And yet, every system on board had been pushed to its highest alert state. This was not a victory moment, it was a warning. Modern conflict does not always begin with explosions. Sometimes it begins with distance and timing, with pilots seeing each other at high speed and deciding how far to push before someone breaks. For the US Navy, the message was clear. Restraint still matters, but only when it is backed by readiness. A carrier is more than steel and aircraft. It is a statement. And when that statement is challenged this closely, every future encounter becomes more dangerous. For Venezuela, the signal was just as clear. The Ford did not flinch. Fighters launched, defenses armed. The response stayed controlled, but it was immediate and unmistakable. Beyond the ships and jets, the ripple spreads outward. Allies watch, rivals take notes. Every second of this encounter becomes data for the next one, and the next confrontation may not leave room for patience. That morning did not end in war, but it proved how thin the line really is between calm seas and crisis. This was not the final chapter. It was a test run. So now the question comes back to you. If another encounter like this happens, do you think it will end the same way? Press 1 if you believe restraint will hold. Press 9 if you think the next one will cross the line, and make sure you are subscribed so you do not miss what comes next.